Hydrogen bonding in water at turbulent flow. It explains everything. The 104.5 degree angle of H20. Why? Okay, so Reynolds 1903 describes grains of surfaces of grains of kinetic elasticity, elastic kineticity. There's just surfaces of grains, and these grains are linked side to side, and they're free bearings top and bottom. You see they slide over each other, surfaces. That's Reynolds. Take a single grain and see inside it a 6-group piling of force grains of expanding force, literally just expansion, and it's filling that space, all golden ratio fillings. So those are rigid bodies. So there's a single membrane around that of temperature. Within the surface, the centroids of bending are on the sides, touching neighbouring grains, sharing the temperature, sharing properties, sharing the centroid of bending. So it's not at the centre, it's in the surface. But it is in the centre, inside each grain. So the surfaces are free sliding because their centroids are shared in the surfaces. The centroid of bending comes from somewhere else, the angular momentum planet rotating at the centre of the universe. Imagine now that these surfaces have mass as they expand bigger and bigger, cosmologically speaking now, surfaces of forces expanding have mass. And therefore there is compressive force as well as expansive force. So you have expansive force inside the grains, and you have compressive force by the surfaces of the spheres that are created, which have mass. Go back to the grain and see that now the top and bottom are being pushed together. North and south are being pushed together. They're magnetically charged and they can't move. There's motion and there's expansion and force. There is electromagnetism. When you compress north and south together, just a tiny, tiny fraction, bearing in mind hypercritical density compressed this 6-group piling, 2 of the grains on the equator move apart, creating vector potential. Victor Lebe 1906, proving that position and momentum changes, momentum changes before position. So that as a collision occurs, Brownian motion, as a collision occurs, it sets its vector and its velocity, and then it moves. That's vector potential. So it moves apart at the bottom. Imagine the 2 grains alongside each other being forced apart. It's at the bottom that the opening begins. As they begin to move apart, they peel away from each other, they unstick. This is shearing force occurring now here. You get shear thickening because the grains must move apart, and they move apart from the bottom. Because they've moved apart from the bottom, there is chirality in those grains. One is anti-clockwise, one is clockwise relative to each other. And so the opposite effect on the other side, where the 2 grains are moving apart, you'd expect there to be 2 grains moving apart, peeling apart from the top. Across, can you see, there's a force at the bottom peeling. The opposite force should be peeling from the top. No, it peels from the bottom because it has mass. So both peel from the bottom. In that peeling motion, another force is created, oxygen. Around the central force, hydrogen. So at the center of the 6-group piling lies the hydrogen molecule, the one, the sphere, created of dilatancy, the 7th sphere. From that 7th sphere, now oxygen is created. So 2 additional real cavitation bubbles grow, linking in to the central hydrogen bubble. But they have different chiralities, and they're sharing the centroid of bending from the surface to the center. And so the bending now, right? So now there is bending at the center at last. Yeah, there's not a balance force, there's actually a bending force because of the mass of the oxygen. And so you get that angle of bending of 104.5 degrees. In the chaos of motion, that bond is always anchored, but it's switching between which 2 grains are moving apart. It can switch. But it'll always have a centroid at the surface. It'll always have a centroid at the center of a bending angle, H20. So that explains hydrogen bonding in turbulent flow of water. And so where does the massive critical density come from? It's because water's inside out. The surface tension of water is inverted. It wants the sphere the wrong way. Wet side to dry side. Yeah. So there's a wet side of water and a dry side of water. And so it should be the dry side of water should compress to nothing, to a cavitation that should just not exist. The wet side of water wants to exist because it has mass. And so the surface tension of water is inverted. The sphere is the wrong way. And we exist now in the space of the shear force thickening that occurs in dilatancy. That all adds up. All that dilatancy in water expresses itself in the surface around it that it creates from its own pressure. It forces a cavitation between its mass at the center, the slag, and the outside, the ocean in which we float. So space is an ocean. We're seeing the surface of our spheres, gradated spheres with records of history of light lodged in those spheres. How big is it? Don't know. Cosmos. Where does the water start? Don't know. Let's find out. But the 2AU sphere, in the sun in which we live, that's a cavitation. Because the heat comes in. The heat comes in. Yeah? So that's my proof that Earth is the center of the universe. And at the moment that you smart people, and Ross and Roy, I'm speaking to you, right? Wake up. It's true. This is what they're hiding. This is why the moon landings were faked. All the space is fake and gay. Yeah? Because it's all inverted. They already know the truth. Victor Lebe, 1906, being classified fucking proves it. Yeah? It's true. That's the hard part. No one can actually believe that this is the answer. Okay. Thanks, guys. Speak to you on the other side. Welcome to the future. Fade out.